Wicklike, a video game subgenre in which the player lives out the power fantasy of being a one-man army eliminating dozens of targets with pinpoint accuracy and without getting hit a single time. Not because they're invincible, but because they've died enough to master the level down to the most minute detail. But why don't I show instead of tell? Here are some of my favorite Wicklikes. I hope you enjoyed that little montage because that's probably where all my editing energy went for this video. No more editing left for the rest of it. Sorry gang. Also the name Wicklike does come from John Wick in case that wasn't clear. Okay, jokes aside, I'm Toasty Taco. I play games and tell you how it went. And today I'm talking about my favorite genre of game to play, and it's niche enough that I'm pretty sure it doesn't have a name yet, so I'll see if I can name it. Hopefully these so-called Wicklikes don't already have an existing genre distinction, or how I'm gonna sound really freaking stupid for the rest of the video. Okay, now that our first date is finished and awkward introductions are over, methinks it's time to delve into a bit more detail. As mentioned at the start, Wicklikes are a genre consisting of games where you master every level down to the millisecond, usually while performing some parkour and using fancy shortcuts, and of course sliming out an entire conservative rural family's worth of enemies. How do the players get so good? Dying like a Brazilian times. When George Bush was told that 6 Brazilians died, he asked with the profound question, how much is a Brazilian? Alright, this might be starting to sound a bit like Dark Souls and Souls-likes, but there is an important distinction. It's not just the boss that needs pattern recognition and practice, it's the level itself on top of that. Hidden enemies, line of sight, aim, timing your jumps, finding shortcuts, and all sorts of things. The giant ugly chud and his romantic partner aren't the only obstacle in the Wicklike, but the level on top of it also becomes a boss fight in and of itself. Different games prioritize different aspects from the list I just gave though, and through personal experience, I feel like I can say there's 3-ish subgenres in this subgenre. Saying sub so much has me sounding like the comments I leave barking for goth mommies on Instagram. Anyway, so here is my 3. The Slasher, a parkour-oriented melee fighter that can focus on parrying and timing. The Puzzler, a game less about tactile combat prowess and more about finding hidden shortcuts and getting a good speedrun strat, or just out-of-the-box thinking. And lastly, the Gunslinger, the traditional shoot-'em-up variety that usually emphasizes resource management in the form of ammo, your gun type, as well as high scores as a result of having way more ways to kill enemies. Hopefully you're getting a good feel for what I'm trying to mean when I say Wicklike now. I have a good case study for each of these 3 game types, but before we dive into each of those, I do feel like it's first good to go over why these games are even fun to begin with. I'm not going to spend too long on this because it's basically the same idea as a Souls-like in terms of the rewarding game design. Essentially, the average Wicklike will drop you in a high-octane level filled with bullets and obstacles and you'll die like 5 times, after which you'll learn the patterns, the routes, and the secrets that allow you to better progress and eventually beat the level. Just like Souls games, the dopamine hit of course comes from that final run where you finally beat the level after so long trying to master it, just like a classic FromSoft boss. However, this is where I think Wicklikes can actually go a step further than Souls games in terms of rewarding game design, because you don't just beat the level and feel happy. No, the game demands perfection. Side note is usually optional, so it's not exactly integral to the experience, but also most games are very heavily designed around this, so anyway, beating a level after 50 tries only makes you realize one thing. It wasn't even good. You were not good enough. Sure, I can just cheese this Sekiro boss by making him fall for the same stupid trick 5 times in a row, but what if I killed it, and the game says, okay, now do it twice as fast and you can't play with your left hand, which, let's be real, in some of these I'm not playing with my left hand anyway. What? Wicklikes are super rewarding because it's not just about crawling across the finish line with 1% HP at all costs, but it's about honing your skills until you truly become a monster, a terror on the battlefield. Because until you can literally play the level with your eyes closed, you're usually not going to want to move on to the next one. And that, my friends, is more addicting than snorting crack out of your homie's crack or cracking a twink who's cracked at cracking. Okay, I don't really know where that sentence was going. I kind of entered a flow state. But now that I've poorly explained the reason for why these games are addicting and fun, I want to hone in on one example from each of those subgenres I talked about earlier. really prod around and see what makes it work, not just in a hypothetical sense, but actually looking at playable, real games. We'll start with the first one I mentioned, the slasher variety. For those of you who only just resumed this video on your lunch break after watching the first minute yesterday, the slasher was the one that was focused usually on parkour, parrying, and of course, melee combat. What do I think is the magnum opus of these slasher Wicklikes? One of my favorite games ever that is criminally under-talked about because it's a total classic, Ghostrunner. Funnily enough, the two monitors flanking my middle monitor both have Ghostrunner wallpapers on right now, which is a pretty crazy coincidence since I shuffle between 100. Tangents aside, for those who live the tragic lives of having not played Ghostrunner yet, here's the breakdown. You're a cyberpunk robo-samurai ninja You're a cyberpunk robo-samurai ninja who's ascending a tower while trying to kill the cyber god mayor of this city. Bullet time, wall runs, and a trusty katana are basically all you have to get from the engineering district slums at the very bottom to the ivory tower top of this weird spider lady final boss. Believe you me, Ghostrunner is a superb game with a superb soundtrack and is the best Wicklike slasher in history, probably a top 10 game of all time. Ghostrunner kills you in one hit, making the whole die a lot and learn the level thing very, very real for this specific entry. A variety of enemies act more so like stage hazards than actual combat risks, either giving you bullets to deflect, melee parrying, or even moving obstacles that you have to parkour around. Enemies usually aren't duels to the death, but added environmental obstacles. You have a bullet time dash that lets you slow down and move either left or right to dodge things, and creative use of this dash can let you do some very clever things, like an absolute legend. I've beaten this game on hardcore mode, by the way, one of my proudest gaming accomplishments, only behind quitting Valorant. Not 2 days after I recorded that initial line did my friends force me to re-download Valorant to play it, but I'm not gonna keep playing it because holy cow, that game sucks. But this kind of dash is used where you can realize, oh, I can actually dash sideways while my camera's looking a different direction to go forward, and just creative use of that parkour system makes you feel really smart the further you get into the game. But here's the main thing I think Ghostrunner does to cement its legacy as a Wicklike, okay, my bad, that was autocorrect, as a Wicklike and parkour Hall of Famer. One of my favorite boss fights in gaming history, an elevator. What did you expect me to say, Atom Smasher or something? No, an elevator, because this is literally 3D geometry dash. You're jumping through lasers, wall running while dodging shockwaves, and grapple hooking pixel perfect gaps, all while dying if you touch a single thing to the hardest beat in history. It is literally so freaking peak. This is the best example of the level is a boss that I can think of. Kind of like Shadow of the Colossus if it had a CP coat of paint to it.
Hike, don't abbreviate cyberpunk. Hike, don't abbreviate cyberpunk.
Not to mention in the sequel to Ghostrunner, there's a giant dune worm. There's a giant cyber dune worm that you have to drive through the middle of. That's also an amazing level as a boss kind of design. Okay, so there's Ghostrunner, a parkour-focused game of precision and swordplay, but now for our next case study, the Puzzler. My favorite puzzler Wicklike is Neon White, not just because of the insane waifu, or the mommy waifu, or the hot man with the best voice actor in history. I love Steve Bloom, I'm straight by the way, but all those aside, Neon White is less about visceral combat like Ghostrunner, and more about trying to outwit the level design and the devs themselves. Enemies are rarely a real threat, and killing them is more of an obstacle of what order and when, as opposed to a duel to the death. Neon White doesn't kill you as much because the game is far more speedrun focused. You're trying to shave off every last 0.1 second from your run, and if you can't, you just KYS and restart the level. From saving up power-ups for a sneaky sequence break or finding a hole in the wall that lets you skip a section, Neon White is a puzzler Wicklike because your focus is usually not on trying to perfect your existing route, but finding that little workaround that changes your route on a fundamental level. Either going on water that you didn't think you were supposed to go on, jumping around a part of the level you didn't think you needed to do, etc, etc. Well, either that, or your focus is on the Okay, I'm back. I apologize for my actions. Time for the last subgenre, right, my gentlemen? Yes, the Gunslinger. The example I bring you today is like my childhood kitty corner for me neighbor's pet hamster, which is to say, another certified banger. Jeez. I Am Your Beast is an amazing game, a relatively recent Wicklike that is just absolute perfection, dude. In gunslinging Wicklike fashion, I Am Your Beast focuses more on resource, aim, and score. It also has elements of speedrunning, puzzles, etc., but that's all because these subgenres sort of blend together, but you get the idea. I Am Your Beast has more ways to kill enemies than any of the other examples. Slashers just kind of give you a cool sword, puzzlers emphasize creative tricks instead of fancy kills, but the gunslinger types, you have shotguns, bear traps, friendly fire, explosive, and bees. Funnier kills give higher scores, and at the end of the day, that's obviously what we want, though in all fairness, I think I Am Your Beast is a pretty dang perfect combination of basically everything good about the different Wicklike games, so I feel pretty comfortable saying it's probably the poster boy of this genre right now. But anyway, it's also a good example of gunslinger type, so let's keep using it like that. As mentioned before, ammo isn't the only concern, but gun availability as well. I have to keep track of where throwing knives are, RPGs, shotguns, etc, etc. It's not just about aiming well, but making sure you have the right tool when you need it, you have the right tool where you're gonna get it, and how many uses you have before it's spent. And of course, how high of a score it can get you, because some of these bear traps and frickin' Axe body spray cans can get you some pretty good scores. Alright fellas, I didn't think this far into the video to figure out what the conclusion should be, but we have our genre definition, 3 examples of subtypes, and a lot of quotes I hope my future employers never hear. So let's see if we can tie all of this back into a cohesive thingy. Ahem. Wicklikes. A video game subgenre, okay, you get the idea, but Souls-likes, but you're John Wick, okay? Who doesn't like that? I have a lot of fun with it. Something I should probably mention is that there aren't that many examples of them out there. I listed a few in the edit at the start, but a few more would include things like Katana Zero, Mirror's Edge, and maybe Ultra Kill, but that one's probably more of a Doom style game. Long story short, let me know if you have any Wicklikes that I did not mention, because I really want to play more of these type of games. They're freaking banger. I also wish I had time to talk about Severed Steel, Hotline Miami, Super Hot Like Your Mom, and the others, but I'm a mortal man, and frankly, I have no idea if this video will get 20 views or 20,000, because I'm a small channel who just kind of gets tossed around like a boy toy by the Dommy Mommy algorithm. So if you like this video, like it, and we'll see if it can actually perform. Okay, Wicklikes, like Souls games, they might not be for everyone, but the people they're for will absolutely eat them up, not unlike my aforementioned neighbor's pet hamster. Anyway, thanks Frog Wizard for being a GoTo channel member, and here's the people who answered the question at the end of the last vid. Answer this question and you'll be at the end of the next video. What's your favorite movie? Let me know and you'll be in a video next time, and you'll confirm you're one of the 1% of people who actually watches to the end of videos. Am I crazy? I feel like I almost always watch the end of videos, even ones that I don't like that much, but apparently the average person, only 1% of people get to the end of videos, so maybe I'm the minority. Alright guys, play Ghostrunner if you haven't, like and subscribe, but love yourself no matter how many elevators you've died to, and have a lovely day. Taco out. Talk out.